Listen, I don't think that I appreciated how stressful it is to actually speak in front of a classroom and get up and do that on a daily basis. When I was a student, I didn't realize it was actually pretty challenging to do that. So I do that on, it's not actually as much as I probably should be because then I would get used to it a lot more. But every semester I have to, fall and spring I have to teach, and when I do that, this is the first time I've actually taught a relatively bigger class um, in in person and did sort of that kind of stuff. It's pretty stressful. So the reason why I'm saying this is I have a migraine headache the next day after I taught, and I think that's kind of normal. For me, I get those a fair bit. It's sort of I think stress is a trigger for me. And you know, what's interesting is you just don't appreciate the sort of anxiety that it's called, or that it causes. I think maybe some people really, uh, love the anxiety that you feel in front of talking in front of people. I'm not necessarily as anxious as I used to be. I used to be far more anxious. I'm not bad. Definitely not that bad now. But, I still have that sort of tinge that's sort of biologically programmed in me to get that tinge of that feeling of anxiety every time that I go and speak. It hasn't gone away. It kind of makes me like excited to be there, right? Like you're actually going through something, but um, or you pushing through something. But at the same time, I've come to realize that it is pretty stressful. It is. It does add a lot, and I'm not saying that this is a bad thing or anything like that. I'm actually, quite privileged to speak in front of people, but you know, it is uh, there definitely are some things that you have to work through. And the big thing for me is, social anxiety is really big for me, and that sort of fear of being judged by other people and fear of, you know, um, other people telling me that, I'm stupid and all of that kind of stuff, which comes, a lot of that comes up. Um, and you really have to sort of work through a lot of those things. The process of teaching and learning how to teach is you have to go through a lot of steps. I'm much better than I used to be, but you still go through a lot of steps. It's very much like what I was talking about a few days ago with the sort of to grow and to get better as a person, you have to go through a lot of emotional things that you work through. And that's one of them is being okay. I'm being, before I'd be really standoffish about talking about private things. Obviously, I would never speak about some private things because they're private, right? But in the grand scheme of things, a lot of things I'll talk about now that I deal with, and it's okay, right? And they're sort of real life things I'm going through. So it's interesting, going through. I got thrown into teaching a course at the last minute, which is fine. Um, Whatever, right? But I realized, like, looking at the material and what we actually cover is like really not a lot of, um, what the textbook says compared to, what is real life is a real big difference or a huge gap. So I spend a great deal of time trying to fill in some of that gap um, of talking about real life stuff and going through some of those things. And that's a bit of the challenge, right? Is sort of looking around and thinking about the real life world and what we all think about. And sometimes it's challenging for people to uh, understand what is going on there, right? Like there's one thing to understand the world in terms of a textbook, but another thing to understand the world that's in front of you. And I think a lot of that comes with experience, experience brings a heck of a lot of failure of dealing with stuff. This basically, quote unquote experience is just like you fail a lot, and then you realize like, wait a minute, this is not working. Um, maybe there's other ways to do it. So that's all I wanted to say is that it's a crazy emotional thing to teach in front of people. Um, and it's fun in a lot of ways, but man, it is emotional. If anybody has told you otherwise, there is a lot that's to it, um, and not emotional in a bad way, right? Like there are some things that are like, "Ah, I don't like to deal with that," but emotional in the sense of just a lot of stuff comes up, right? Like a lot of energy. There's no other, like, both positive and negative energy comes up when you teach and you go through things. Um, and it's just an interesting experience to go through that. And you definitely get, so, stress is not necessarily just because of negative things, right? Stress is from a lot of different things. So you have a huge amount of stress that comes up whenever you teach. And it's both positive and negative, and you're working through those bad boys in your head, and you're working through all of that kind of stuff. And so just expect that as you're going through it, and be easy on yourself. One thing I've been very much more appreciative of other people getting up and talking and being a lot more supportive of other people speaking, um, both in the sense of trying to not say too much, but at the as well as being supportive. So that's all I just want to say. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye.